Your client onboarding process can make or break your coaching business. If you're treating it like a checklist, you're missing out on one of the biggest opportunities to create lasting client relationships and build a thriving six-figure practice. Now, here's why this is critical. The first session with a new client is where expectations are set, trust is built, goals are aligned. And if you get this part right, you set your clients up for powerful results, the kind that make them want to come back for more and share your work with others. And if you miss this, they'll struggle, they'll feel lost, and they may never experience the full transformation you offer. So imagine this, a strong onboarding process not only keeps clients engaged and inspired, but it also fuels your success with powerful testimonials and referrals, creating a ripple effect that grows your practice. Let's walk you through the top 10 onboarding secrets that will help you retain clients, drive transformational results, and lay the foundation for a six-figure business. Let's dive in. So this question was inspired by a client of mine, and she got her very first client and she was really excited. But then she's like, now what? Do we have a best practices for onboarding? And that's where I came up with these top 10 tips to really set her and her client up for the best results. So at that very initial orientation session, you're going to do some housekeeping details. We're going to set this up right. So first is to set up, let's say you have a 12-week coaching program and you have weekly sessions over the course of 12 weeks. At that initial session, one of the very first things you do is set the next 11 appointments, same date and same time each week. So if it's Tuesday at 2 is their spot, pick that. Now, of course, if there's one-offs that happen, you can adjust the date if they're on holidays or they're sick or something else comes up, but it massively improves their success. If you have to at each subsequent session pick a time that wastes valuable time of your coaching session. Plus, I always used to say, first one to the calendar wins. So if they don't have on their calendar that set appointment, other things will come up. And then they're looking for a spot to fit you in. And if there's a gap, no news is not good news. I can attest to the massive success. We used to set that first date, and then each time we'd pick the next time. As people went along, sometimes their time was already taken up. So then they had to find another time. And that time didn't work for them. And then they had to go 2 weeks and it became chaotic. And what you really want to do is you want to get into a rhythm and a cadence so that you can set them up. Consistent little baby steps will win. So that is a powerful tool. I know that you'll underestimate it, but it is powerful. Never leave one call without booking the next. Second, clearly define their graduation date. If you have 12 sessions with them, when is the deadline, the graduation date that all of those appointments have to be done? If you don't have this and you have 12 sessions and in your mind, you're thinking 12 weeks, and in their mind, they're initially thinking 12 weeks, but then they had that trip to Europe for 2 weeks. And then it was over the holidays. And then someone came to visit and then they broke their leg. And then this happened. And then the next thing you know, it's 6 months later and they haven't really had any consistency. They haven't gotten the results, but they paid you. So you feel like you have to do these one-off sessions. So if you went to the gym once a decade, you're not going to see results. It's the consistency and the compression in time that really allows for those results. So to avoid this and to avoid misunderstandings, and then having you say, 6 months later, hey, you know, are we done? Or having them fade off into the sunset, or having the relationship not be quite right because, they thought you were going to coach them, but then things happened and they didn't show up or you didn't show up and you committed those 12 weeks, but you didn't know you'd still be dealing with them many months later. And so it gets really sideways quickly and everybody loses in that scenario. So the second hot tip is to clearly define a graduation date. And what I like to do is if it's 12 weeks, then set that date for 2 weeks later. So if they were to have a perfect attendance, put it for 2 weeks later. So for example, 14 weeks for a 12-week program. So that way you've got a little bit of give in your system. So you've got a couple of weeks. If something comes up that you know they have to have all of their sessions done by graduation, by the deadline, and you can let them know that clearly on that very important, critical first session when you say, all of our calls are going to be done and all of our sessions will be done by this, and we will celebrate that graduation. The third thing you're going to want to do is on that initial call is outline your process. Initially, make it easy for them. Their job is just to show up each week at that time, and you've got them from there. And then at the end of the session, you can let them know what to focus on for next week. So, for example, this week, we might just say, drink water, focus on drinking water. So if you have modules, you can instruct them to review whatever next module before the next session. But at that, you can outline your process. Do the modules, do the homework before our next time. But the bare minimum is just have them show up. Try to avoid having them jump through a number of hoops just to get that time with you, because the time that you spend with them is valuable. Even if all that you did was just breathe together and just hear them out and be able to be that sounding board for them and gently guide them in that positive direction. The fourth thing is, if you have a coaching agreement, a contract, have them sign it. Maybe it was already signed, maybe you already emailed it at enrollment, but if not, you can email it then. Just make sure some of those details have been taken care of. Sometimes you might have an agreement where you can just share your screen over Zoom and they can acknowledge it and you can have a recording. But take care of that agreement right up front. Make sure that they know what the expectation is, when the graduation date is, when the end date is, and what they're responsible for and what you're responsible for, just to keep it nice and clear. Now, the fifth tip that I recommend is at the beginning, do an initial scale of 1 to 10 assessment. So I like to do an assessment of 10 things on a scale of 1 to 10. Even if all that you do is help with weight loss or skin issues or something like that, I highly recommend 10 things on a scale of 1 to 10. This can be sleep, energy, mood, skin, bloating, pain, any of these things that apply to the niche that you have, put those in there. 10 things on a scale of 1 to 10. The goal is, over the course of your program, to move the needle to improve at least 10 points while you're working with them, so that we have an objective measure. This will be important. I'll let you know why in a minute. So, for example, you might have 10 things that improved 1 point, or you might have 2 things that improved 5, or 1 thing that improved 10. So, but the cumulative, you want to see some objective measure that it improved, because I promise you, I guarantee that towards the end of that program, they will miss and not appreciate all of the changes that have improved. People have this negative bias and they'll not recognize all of those great habits. They will get great results if they start managing their stress, drinking their water, doing all of these things, getting their sleep. If they start cleaning up their diet, they will decrease their inflammation. They will get results. But they might be fixated on something that you didn't even know they were fixating at as a measure. So, for example, I remember one of my clients, she didn't even have weight loss as her niche, but the person judged the program by the fact that she never lost weight. I'm like, well, I didn't even know we were trying to lose weight. And so you want to make it clear, but also, even if it is for something like weight loss, weight is just one measure. There are before and after photos of me flying around somewhere, and people used to say, how much weight do you think this woman has lost? And people would say 20 pounds, 30 pounds. It was 1 pound. So I released toxic fat. I got rid of 9% body fat, and I gained muscle, And the net effect was a weight loss of 1 pound. But the before and after pictures looked like it was at least 20 or 30 pounds. So they can be improving. And if that's all that they're measuring, they're going to miss the fact that they've been doing something nice and it actually has been working. And I know when I was only losing that 1 pound, and I know better, I was second guessing myself. And it was only because I happened to have photos being taken for a family event and another gathering. And I said, what the heck? I'm going to schedule it and take photos afterwards. I wasn't even going to take the photos otherwise because I'd only lost 1 pound. So it's so easy for people to fool themselves as to how much has happened. People will forget that they had no energy. People forget how painful they were in. If they're in horrible pain and instantly the pain is gone, they remember that. But if people have pain and it gradually goes away, if you're watching this right now and you're not in pain, you probably, until I mentioned it, weren't really aware that you weren't in pain. It's just normal. And so what they're going to feel by the end of your program is normal. So they're just going to have great energy because that's normal. And it happens gradually. So you want them to do an assessment and they will be surprised, amazed, and also it will prove that all of those great things that they're doing, those lifestyle habits are making a difference. So important. And then they'll be more inclined to continue on. Plus, maybe the weight is lagging a little bit, but they've had sleep and energy improvements and mood improvements, or their pain is less. They'll have had some improvements in other areas. So it's really important. They might be fixated on that one thing. You really want to do 10 things on a scale of 1 to 10. So the next one, number 6, is to set intentions and goals and back it up with the fuel of their why. So what do they want? What is it that they're looking for? Now, you might have a different idea, and it's important at this initial session to get really clear. But more importantly, why do they want it? Because as they go through this process, as you go through different processes of going from point A to point B, if we're busting through default patterns and limiting beliefs and old conditioning, you're going to face a moment when you go, why am I doing this? And you're going to want to have an answer as to why you're doing this. And that why will call them forward. It's like fuel to get them going. So you set the destination, you set your GPS, and then the fuel in the gas tank is that why. So why do they want it? What is the cost of inaction? What if they don't do this? What's the problem with that? And really get clear. And this is the portion where you're really going to get into the coaching aspect. This is the time you bring out, tell me more about that, and really explore and dive deep. And it will really set them up for success. Number 7, this sounds silly, but set a bedtime for them. Now, that sounds crazy. Why would that matter? I'll tell you that most people don't have a bedtime. When they're little kids, they have a bedtime. But as they become adults, they're on their phones, they're on their computers, they're stressed at work, and it really messes with your circadian rhythm. So just setting a bedtime is hugely helpful. There is the saying, early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise. And there is a tremendous amount of truth to that. So a lot of times we just say, get up early. But the thing is, if we don't get to bed early, we're probably not waking up early, or we're really sleep deprived. So just having them set a bedtime is helpful. It helps improve their sleep, start to get a nighttime ritual where they start to wind things down. If there's not enough time for all the things that you need to do in a day, boy, do I know that one, then we got to look at that. Where are we going to put it? What are we going to say no to? What are we saying yes to? And just be intentional with that. And that's where the coach comes in. You can really help them with that. But set a time. And maybe it's not a big jump all at once. Maybe we have to just inch it back. But helping them get sleep, that improves their weight, because sleep deprivation is strongly associated with obesity and diabetes. That's huge. Menopause, it messes with your hormones. So getting them to sleep earlier is one thing, but also as they sleep earlier, then walk it back and establish an eating window. Now, some of you are into intermittent fasting and you can do that, but sometimes people are not ready for that, or it depends on your niche. But at the bare minimum, work to bring their food intake to within a 12-hour window. At least start there. So 7 to 7, 8 to 8, something like that. Start there. Once upon a time, that wasn't called fasting. That was just called normal. But now we have 24/7 drive-throughs. Our pantry and our kitchen is open all the time. And when we're at our screens, we're eating. And so that is one of those things where we can really rev up. If you're still awake at midnight, you get into pitta. If anybody's familiar with Ayurveda, it's the pitta time from 10 p.m., well, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., but 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is pitta. And so that's the time when you're digesting. Now, you want to be digesting those things through the day that you've just had while you're dreaming. But if you're still awake, ever get the midnight munchies? That's what happens. Ever get your second wind? You were maybe sleepy around 8 p.m., but now you're raring to go again. So it gets harder to sleep. So sounds silly, but it really is something simple to do. Set a bedtime and see if they can stick with it. And number 8, set up an easy action step for them for a quick win. Don't overwhelm them with a whole bunch of forms to fill out and a whole bunch of things. One of the biggest rookie mistakes, you might have been a health coach that overcame tremendous challenges, health challenges. And over the years, you've learned so much. And you can't wait to tell that new client everything you know. And so you fire hose them with everything that you've learned over the last decade, and you just flatten them. They're just not ready for that. They just can't do that. So keep it small, set them up for a win, give them something that they can do. And one of the things that's easy to do, easy not to do, and we all know we should do it anyways, is drink water. Drink water. Have them measure their water. You can indicate how much that you think that they should have in a day and have them track it. And just start there. Give them some tips on how to do that, whether it's measuring water bottles and counting the water bottles, putting an elastic band on a water bottle and refilling it a number of times, adding lemon or lime if they don't like straight water, and just get that hydration in. It is a anti-ager. Water helps hydrate the skin. It helps to lose weight because hydration is so important. It burns calories. It doesn't have any calories. It also lubricates the joints. It just hydration. It makes their blood flow. It's less sticky. So many great reasons to drink water. So you want to make sure that they're doing that. And that is something that they can do and they can focus on. Now, if you give them 10 new habits to focus on and go to the gym for 2 hours and walk the dog and clean up your food and go, some whatever, go vegan, go gluten-free, give all of these things, that might be too much. Start with water. Start with water. Keep it simple. And number 9 is let them know what's expected for next time. So have them bring any questions that arose for the next call and make sure they know the time and how to reach you. Now, here's one of those things that, well, it'll roll right into number 10. I'm just going to go right into number 10, and that is to resist the temptation to do more. Less is more. So a lot of times, one of the things, so I'm a big believer in helping health coaches reach 6 figures, making an incredible soul satisfying impact in the world without burning out. Now, I set up a plan and the plan works, and our health coaches do that. But every once in a while, pretty often at the beginning, they will be tempted to add some extra steps in. And when you just have 1 or 2 clients, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And that's the first one and it's okay. But be careful about adding all of these other things and steps in, because you follow that trail along And I was just on a call not long ago with someone, and we had set it up, and she's on track to six figures. She's doing great, but she's just like, I can't take any more clients. And I'm like, why? Added some stuff in, added some stuff in that was, we mean well, we're healers, we love to just give, 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 but now added too much in, gave too much out without getting it back in, got out of balance, and we're like, closed for business. Don't want to help any more people because I can't. So instead of that, I recommend just keeping it simple. So, what are some of the things that people might be tempted to do? I definitely tell all of our clients to not have your clients find some way to communicate with your clients other than the way that you communicate with family and friends. So, have them text, don't have them text or email or Facebook message, because pretty easy to text, email, Facebook message 24/7, anytime. And they just paid you and you want to help them. And so what do? So there are some apps that kind of can be a good mix. One is called Voxer, Voxer. And so you could, if you really want them to communicate with you before, in between sessions, you could say, set up a Voxer account. It's like they're texting or messaging, and you can send audio or video just like a text. And you can let them know, hey, if you have any questions for me beforehand, in between, just let me know. And then when I open up my office in the morning, you're your own boss, you got to set your hours. Then if you've sent me 10 messages overnight, I will get back to them first thing in the morning when I open up my office. So that also is helpful. It has them think for themselves, figure it out for themselves. We don't disempower them, but it also puts some boundaries on there. But also, when they are no longer your client, then they're no longer in that Voxer app, and it was something different. And so when they were your client, they were in there. And now that they're not your client, they are out. We have something called Basecamp. So when they're an active client, we communicate with them really well in Basecamp. But once they're no longer a client, they're out. And so those normal channels, otherwise, and we've had clients who've done this, if they just texted them, they let them text, just text me if you have a question. And at the beginning, it feels good to be needed. And that gets old really fast. It really gets old really fast. And then what happens is you just get anxiety. You're on high alert. And not only just for when you're coaching them, afterwards, 2 months later, hey, quick question. I know you said XYZ, but I've got this, this, this. This isn't working anymore. And the next thing you know, you're on call 24/7 for the rest of your life. Ugh. And it feels awful to say no to that person. And this is why having clear boundaries, clear intentions, clear expectations that we talked about at the beginning is critical. It's absolutely critical. So, one is having a different app, but also at the beginning, when I was health coaching years ago, and I would let my clients know. Initially, it was in person, and then it was over the phone. This was before Zoom, and then I've been using Zoom for years, but it was over the phone. And I remember hearing the recommendation, you set up these sessions every other week, and then they can text unlimited email support, unlimited text support. And I already knew, as a mom of four, as a busy doctor working 100 hours a week and on call, there is no way I could honor unlimited email or text support. And my clients did phenomenal without any in between. We set clear expectations. They bring their questions to the next appointment, and that works. That works. So depending on your niche, there might be exceptions, but I strongly discourage you from accepting communication through Facebook message, email, or text. You'll lose it because you got all sorts of other personal things emailing and texting you, and it'll get mixed in. Then you'll just be afraid to touch your phone because it'll be dinging, or you'll be afraid that what if this is a client instead of somebody that you like. So that is one of my most important tips. So these top 10 tips are powerful, and they're born out of years of experience, mostly from myself, but now hundreds of other health coaches that have put them to the test. So these tips allow you to set clear intentions, clear expectations, tap into your client's why that you can call upon later if they're faltering, so that you can have reasonable, clear initial action steps that can have them get on their way, get that quick win right up front. And most of all, leave them with knowing that all they just have to do is just show up consistently every week, and then you've got them. And together you can navigate no matter what comes their way. So this will have them wanting to continue to get those sessions in, continue with the path that you've laid out, and will lead to life-changing, transformative results. And most of all, they're going to be walking, talking billboards, and they're going to tell their friends. And referrals and raving testimonials are an excellent key ingredient to creating a six-figure, soul-satisfying practice. So for more of the secret ingredients to six figures, check out the link below in the description where we cover all 5. And here's to raving fans and a thriving practice. Check out this next video designed to move you forward on the practice of your dreams. Be good for you.